Who was the masked man going nuclear on Fat Ass 45 proxy Senator Rand Paul? Could that be Anthony Fauci, usually as buttoned down as his shirts, shooting down Paul's nonsense about COVID-19? The same Paul who tested positive for the virus and then swanned around the Capitol without telling anyone. Yes, the same Paul who praised Sweden's herd immunity that didn't save lives or the economy and dumped on New York's draconian measures that ultimately did work and criticized Fauci's authoritarian mandates of the nanny state. Fauci was having none of this, and basically, and he challenged it, and he said and asked for more time, because this happens with Senator Rand all the time. On community immunity, Paul's euphemism for killing us to save us, Fauci told the lawmaker, "You're not listening," and that if he believed that 22% of the New York population testing positive constitutes herd immunity, you're alone in that. The problem is that Paul is not alone in this. On the virus, Paul and Fat Ass 45 are two bodies, one mind, both prescribing that we take 2 aspirin and call our governors in the morning and leave time for herd immunity to have its way, or not. Not only is herd immunity cruel and inhumane, 65% of the immunity is a long way off, but it's less likely to work against the virus that's been shown to infect victims a second time. But Fauci hasn't convinced Fat Ass 45 of that. After serving six presidents who put the public health before themselves, this fat ass is a shock to Fauci's system, and he has nothing in his doctor's bag to heal him. Instead, like so many formerly respected wise men of the party and grown-ups in the room, Fauci has chosen to humor Fat Ass 45 and let him save face rather than anger him and lose the chance to cajole him into doing the right thing. Retired Marine and Chief of Staff John Kelly couldn't convince Fat Ass 45 to forget about his hair and honor the war dead, so it's no shame on Fauci that he couldn't get Fat Ass 45 to keep the country locked down long enough to save tens of thousands of lives, even those in the red states like Texas and Florida, that the fat ass cares the most about. Technically, doesn't care about anybody, but there is shame and stain. We arrived at summer's end. Infections are rising, with some states bracing for a second and third waves, and Fauci's capacity is to affect is all but gone. If he stays on Fat Ass 45's fake task force, Fauci risks becoming the Robert Mueller of microbes, a great man playing by rules that no longer apply. It's not Fauci's failure that Fat Ass 45 doesn't listen to anybody. The fat ass has gone full authoritarian and doesn't listen to anyone, with the exception of his of Jared and his daughter wife Ivanka, occasionally Peter Navarro and the white supremacist Stephen Miller, and the Attorney General when he's serving as Fat Ass 45's personal attorney. Even they wouldn't recommend that Fat Ass 45 broadcast that he's ready to inject the result of the election if he doesn't win, proclaim the planet as colon as wildfires consume the West, and insist that there's a vaccine imminent when there isn't, though, and maybe Jared's in on that last one. Fat Ass 45 so feasts on his power to say whether he feels like and not lose one supporter that his aides were afraid to slip him a note mid Klan rally that Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg had died for fear he would dishonor her memory, and the crowd would chant for her seat. No one could stop him from calling her dying words fake and not taken down on her deathbed, but by her granddaughter, but the work of the devil in the guise of Schumer, Pelosi, and Schiff. Fat Ass 45 wore a black face mask identical to the one he makes fun of Biden for wearing at Ginsburg's memorial. It didn't protect him from being booed, but it did get him admitted into the court to pay his respects, such as they are. Fauci has to leave so that he can call out Fat Ass 45 as he accelerates his rejection of science. On Monday, the CDC's warning that droplets could float more than 6 feet was taken down because of a technical error, or maybe because the information was inconsistent with Fat Ass 45's messaging that everything is awesome. He had Alex Azar, who's competing with Fat Fuck Bar for the most slavish cabinet secretary, issue a memo stating that only he can rule on anything affecting health and safety, which means the buck stops at his desk to decide on the safety of the next hydroxychloroquine or convalescent plasma or bleach cure. Thursday, Fat Ass 45 said that he would reject any decision on a vaccine if he thought it was political. That's rich. Fat-ass 45 so politicized the vaccine by promising one before the election that two-thirds of the country tell pollsters they were afraid to take it. If Fauci weren't relegated by Fat-ass 45 to giving a second opinion, he'd be all over that. He could if he left and said why, and dropped the second opinion business and the bedside manner and treated Fat-ass 45 to the same full-throated criticism he delivered to Paul. Fauci stayed until now to do good, but not to do well, like so many still sniffing the rare field air of the Oval Office who hang on for the power, the glory, and the car service. Fauci happily drives himself 10 miles from his government issued suburban office to the West Wing, and has turned down repeated offers of a loftier title and larger salary to toil in the trenches. That's more than enough for Fat Ass 45 to consider him a loser, like those buried in Belleau Wood and Senator John McCain, who went and got himself shot down and locked in a tiger cage in Hanoi for 5 years while Fat Ass 45's war was avoiding STDs in Manhattan, as he boasted to Howard Stern in a radio interview. On Wednesday, John McCain's widow, Cindy McCain, rejected Fat Ass 45's Republican Party, announcing that she would be voting for Joe Biden. I'd love to know who Fauci's wife, Christine Grady, chief of the Department of Bioethics at the National Institute of Health Clinical Center, is voting for. Probably Biden. Paul was speaking for Fat Ass 45 when he upbraided Fauci at a June hearing, telling the doctor who advised 7 presidents that he was not the end-all, and instructing him to be more humble, a requirement for those who would work for this fat ass, thus the excess of family and friends on a staff to breed humility and keep Fauci in his place. There was an aide in Azar's office whose job it was to keep Fauci off TV. If he stays on Fat Ass 45's task force, Fauci risks becoming the Robert Mueller of microbes, a great man playing by rules that no longer apply. So far, the only time Fat Ass 45 has been truthful about the virus was when he admitted to Bob Woodward that it would wreak horrible sickness and death, and not to warn or protect the American people, but to play the big shot. The only way Fauci can bring his talent to bear on ending the pandemic is to get far away from the man who boasts that he's doing a phenomenal job by presiding over 200,000 plus deaths so far. And there's no fixing a man that broken, even by a doctor who's cured thousands. It's unfortunate, but Fauci has to leave the coronavirus task force to help save us from the coronavirus if Fat Ass 45 isn't willing to. So if you like the video, give the video a like and subscribe to my channel, Random Mike, and also hit the notification bell so that you'll be notified when a new video comes out, and thanks for listening.